Hi everyone, welcome to another knitting video. Today it's time for the third episode of my Knitting Through the 1800s series, in which I work my way through knitting patterns of the 1800s one decade at a time. We've already done the 90s and the 80s. One was great and one was interesting, to say the least. This time we are moving on to the 1870s. I am so excited about this one. I found a pattern for a bodice, they call it. So sticking with the theme of making things to keep me warm, because I run cold and I need to be warm. So we're making something else to keep me warm. So we already have a vest, we have kneecaps that are kind of used as knee warmers in my case. And now we're making a bodice to go underneath anything I wear to keep me warm. And the pattern we'll be using for this is from the Ladies Knitting Book by EMC. Author of the Ladies Crochet Book, makes sense. And it's from 1874, so right in the middle of the 1870s. And the pattern is the high bodice to cost, and then it says, I think it's 1 shilling and 3 something else. I'm not sure. But I like how they say how much it's going to cost, which doesn't mean much today, but I think it would have been useful back then to know what something would cost. They say this bodice is meant to wear under the dress. It actually comes with an illustration of kind of the schematics of this whole bodice. I'll put it on the screen. So that's really, really useful, because oftentimes with these older patterns I get confused about what I'm actually doing. Often I'm not even sure if it's worked bottom up or top down. Where am I in the pattern? With this illustration I have an overall idea of what I'm doing. And in true Victorian style, there's only one size. It only says, and it's not very helpful, this pattern is for an ordinary figure. But after one trial, the knitter will find it can be altered to any size. So that doesn't really say much. I mean, what is an ordinary figure? What am I compared to the ordinary figure? I don't know. So I did some calculations based on the number of stitches that are around the bust area, which I could do pretty easily, because in the illustration it actually says around the bust area what the stitch count is. So I did some calculations and divided the number of stitches by my bust size and then converted that back to a knitting tension. And I think I'll be okay if I make this size that's given with the yarn and the needles that I have. So speaking of yarn and needles, for the yarn I'm using this. This is the Scheepjes Metropolis. It's a extra fine merino wool, and it has a gauge of 29 by 45 with 2.5 to 3 millimeter needles. I did a little gauge swatch, and if I use 3 millimeter needles I get to about 24 stitches, which is exactly what I need to make this fit. And speaking of needles, I am again using my straight needles. This is what I also did for the very first episode, mainly because I want to really kind of immerse myself into this whole Victorian knitting experience as much as I can, only when it comes to knitting. So I'm using straight needles, which I normally don't. I normally prefer circular needles, but they didn't have those yet. So straight needles it is. Now to start, this is worked bottom up, and I just need to start with 98 stitches and just work a simple 2x2 rib for 12 rows. Pretty straightforward. And then we are going to increase a bunch up until the bust area and then move on to some next steps. But first I need to cast on and work the rib. I also just realized that they spell purl, as in pearl stitches, as the purl, P-E-A-R-L, which is really interesting. I haven't seen it before. And as someone with a linguistics degree, that's very, very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and start knitting. I did the 12 rows of ribbing. That went pretty quickly actually. I feel like the straight needles are starting to grow on me. I'm not having as much trouble with them as I had with the 1890's project. So I don't really hate them as much anymore. Maybe I'll change my mind, I'm not sure yet. Because now I need to move on and I need to, I believe, just work stockinette. I mean, they call it plain knitting, but I'm pretty sure that just means stockinette. And I need to start increasing at certain points to kind of shape it. For the increases, I find this interesting. They say make one by putting the wool around the needle, so I'm guessing they mean a yarn over. And I'm not supposed to work the yarn overs on the next row twisted, I guess, because if you read ahead somewhere, blah blah blah, it says continue in this way until you have done 30 rows with holes. And 30 alternate plain rows. So don't work the yarn overs twisted and create holes intentionally, which normally you would avoid. But okay, I just need to do that for a lot of rows. So I need to now work in 5 sections and an increase in between each of these sections. So I'm just going to put some stitch markers in to help me so I don't have to count every single time. And I'm going to just do that. Create some holes intentionally, which I normally wouldn't do. So yeah, should be interesting. Well, it turns out I cannot count. It was supposed to be 16 first, then 30, then 6, then 30 and then 16 again. But on the last 16 section, I ended up with 18. So that means I've cast on 2 stitches extra. So what I'm going to do is just redo this first row I just did, unfortunately, and skip the increases on the outer sides, on the outer sections the first round, and just have 17 to start with, and then I'll continue as I was supposed to. So yeah, I messed up already. But, you know, it's not the pattern's fault, this is just my own inability to count. Okay, I'm now about 1/3 of the way done with the increases. I've done 10 increase rows, and at first I thought it was strange that I'm supposed to work the yarn overs not twisted. But looking at it now, I think it's more of a design feature because it just looks really nice, like a lace pattern. So we have this is the back panel, I believe, side, front. So then you have the side here and then the front, and then it's all divided by this nice little, very simple, very basic lace pattern. But I do feel like it adds something to this, you know, because otherwise it would have just been plain stockinette. But yeah, I really like it. So I'm going to keep going. This needle is starting to get pretty full and I still have 20 increase rows to go. So we'll see how that's going to go, but so far, so good. I have now done 20 of the 30 increase rows, and it's starting to get a little bit crowded on this needle. That's one of the other reasons I prefer using circular needles, because it's just easier to work with a wider piece of knitting, if that makes sense. Because I'm now getting dangerously close to just losing stitches whenever this is just laying around. Also, one thing I wanted to say in my last update, but I completely forgot, is that I'm really enjoying working with this yarn. It's so soft and it's really, really nice. It feels really nice on your hands when you're working with it. And the fabric is also so nice, so soft. So I'm really excited to keep working with this yarn and maybe make some more projects with this yarn in the future. I also really enjoy this color. On camera it's coming across a little bit more blue toned than it is in real life. It's a bit more of a yellow-green, if that makes sense. I'm really bad at describing colors if you haven't figured it out yet, but so far so good. I'm going to keep going, do another 10 increased rows, and then I need to start shaping. And when I'm shaping, I will have to put some stitches on hold, so then hopefully it won't be as crowded on the needles anymore. So far good. I will say I'm a little bit worried about this bottom ribbing here. I don't know if that's going to fit all around my waist. If the whole thing turns out to be too small, I can just maybe add, I don't know, like a fake bottom band across the front. Maybe? I don't know. We will see. I'm first going to finish these increase rows. I finished all the increase rows. The thing is that because I'm working on straight needles, I don't really know if this is going to be big enough yet. Because if I would be working on circular needles, I would just wrap it around myself. I can't do that on straight needles, so I just have to hope it's going to be big enough. But like I said in an earlier update, I can always extend the front part more by adding some bottom bands or something like that. We will see. I do think it's going to be quite short because I'm now at the point I'm going to start working on the back and in the two fronts separately. So technically this is going to be the length from the arm, underarm, so it may just be more of a crop top. It's also getting really crowded on this needle, so I'm looking forward to working on separate sections now. Speaking of that, what I need to do, take 60 stitches, the first 60 stitches, leaving all the rest still on the needle, and do plain knitting backwards and forwards on those 60 for 32 rows. So pretty straightforward. After that I need to cast off 5 stitches, and then from that point onward I'm going to have to do a lot of decreases. So what we're working on now is, let me show you, like this section right here. And just reading through it, it doesn't seem too complicated, and I think I'll be alright. I'm going to start working on those 60 stitches for 32 rows. That's going to be pretty simple, pretty boring, I guess. And then we can do some shaping. It should be interesting. So this is what we have so far. I finished the 32 plain rows, and then I cast off 5 stitches at the beginning here for the neckline. And now I need to work decreases. So starting with the next row, which is from the wrong side, I need to decrease at the end of the row, every other row, I don't know how many times, I need to check. And that will shape the neckline some more. So yeah, I'm just going to do that. And I love the language in this pattern. It just says, take 2 together. Lovely. Let's get this neckline shaped. So I finished one of the front pieces, and I've put the shoulder seam, I guess, stitches on some scrap yarn because I thought it would be useful, because then once I've done the back and stuff like that, I could just put those shoulder stitches on scrap yarn as well, put them both on needles and just work them together to seam them. But that's not going to happen. Let me show you why. I've started working on the back, so that's the middle section of the stitches. This will be the other front part, and here I am working on the back. And what I've done so far is I've done, I think it was 16 rows just plain knitting, and then I started decreasing at the end of each row. I also get a little bit confused when they say stuff like that because I'm not sure if they mean at both ends or not, but I did some calculations and it's at the end of each row, not at the start. So I mean, that makes sense. They say at the end of each row, not at both ends of each row. Anyway, so I'm now decreasing, so this is shaping like that. And the slanted edge where I'm doing the decreasing will be the shoulder seam. So there was no point in keeping these stitches on a piece of scrap yarn, but I did it anyway. I might just pick up the stitches along the edge here later to sew the sides together, or like knit them together, I guess. We will see. But for now, I still have a lot of this shaping to do until I have, I think, 29 stitches left. And I think in total it's 38 rows. I've done, I believe, 14 rows so far, so still got a long way to go. And then I need to work on the other front piece. But yeah, this is what it's looking like so far. I don't know if it's going to look good yet. I have really no idea, but we will see. I like the color, I like the yarn, so that's at least something. Let's keep going. Well, we have something. It kind of looks, honestly, like it's kind of Demogorgon-esque in its shape. It's really interesting. I've finished knitting both of the front pieces and the back piece. I've kept this one on the needle. I am going to now attach this shoulder piece of the front to the shoulder pieces on the back. So this is one of the shoulder pieces, then here you have the neck, and then here you have another shoulder piece. I'm going to attach those, and then what I'm going to do is see if it even fits. I have a feeling it won't, because if I look at the ribbing at the bottom, this is how far it stretches. That's not far enough. So I was thinking that maybe it would be an option. I don't want to do this, I'm terrified, but I could stick right here in the underarm section and add an extra panel. I don't want to do that, I've never done it before and I'm terrified, but if I have to, I will. I can always add a kind of edge to the front piece, which I may have to do anyway because there is no buttonhole situation at all. So I don't really know how that works, so I may have to add just a button band. I don't know yet. I'll have to first finish the shoulder seams and then try it on. But yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be way too small. So yeah. So I finished the shoulder seams and then I tried it on, and it's definitely too small. So what I did is I already blocked it kind of aggressively. That helped a little bit, but it's still definitely way too small. So what I've done is I've added a pretty big, I guess, button band to one of the front pieces. I've also decided to add like eyelet holes, because I want this to be laced up instead of buttoned, because I think it's not going to work if it's buttoned because it will pull too much, if that makes sense. So I've also added some eyelets. I've now started working on the other side, the other button bands. I'm hoping that will help at least bridge the gap to help it close up. Probably not at the ribbing at the bottom edge. That's definitely way too small. I may add a little tie or something to keep it a little bit more closed. I don't know yet. I'm just going to work on the second button band and see what that looks like. Let me show you. And then I'm supposed to also crochet around the neck edge and the armholes. So I think I'll do that once I'm done with the button band, maybe, I don't know yet. I just want to make sure that I don't crochet too tight, because then it will lose all elasticity. And I need that because otherwise it will definitely not fit. It needs to stretch. But even if it may not fit well, I think it does look really, really nice, and it does look Victorian somehow. Let's just go and see if I can get this big enough that it can at least close. And then we'll see what the plan of action is going to be for the armholes and the neckline. It's turning out to be a pretty interesting project. Button bands are done, and well, they're not button bands technically because I made eyelets. And I tried it on, and I think this definitely helped because I can get it to close, so that's perfect. I've also added the crochet edges around the neckline and around the armholes. Beautiful. What I now need to do is add a ribbon. I'm going to have to weave ribbon through the crochet edges. And for that, I actually have this dark green ribbon, which was kind of a backup thing for my stays, but I ended up going with the blue. So I can use this. I'm also going to use this as the lace up portion in the front. So I'm going to weave this through the crochet lace edges and the eyelets in the front. And then we are ready for the big reveal. And then we can see what it looks like when I'm actually wearing it. I'm very excited. Yeah, it's been interesting, this whole project, but I am getting really excited about the final result. So let's see. So here it is. I will say I am incredibly relieved because I did at some point think that this would turn out to be a complete fail and that I would not even be able to put it on, but I can actually fit into it. It definitely helped to add the I don't know how many centimeters of button band. If I hadn't done that, I would not have been able to close this up. But I got it close with my ribbon. It's not perfect, definitely not, but it works, and I think it turned out really, really cute in the end. I also really, really like the yarn I used because it's so soft and the fabric is so nice and comfy. So I'm very happy with this yarn choice. So it was a bit of a bumpy ride. It started pretty good, then I got a little bit scared that it would turn out to be a fail, but in the end it turned out fine. It's just, you have to kind of figure out stuff yourself with old knitting patterns and just troubleshoot as you go along, which I did, and I am now very happy with my 1870s bodice. But I'm now going to end this here. I am very excited to work on the 1860s project. That's been one that I've been looking forward to since the start of this series, so keep an eye out for that. For now, I'm going to leave you with my Hexie Puff update. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.